Support independent media and leave the smoldering ruins of corporate idiocy behind with Second Wind logo products from DFTBA. Head on over to shop.secondwindgroup.com for shirts, stickers, and the satisfaction of helping sustain a worker-owned outlet. Plus, we've got cool bird merch, and everyone loves cool birds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Windbreaker Podcast, episode number 117 for Monday, March 30th, 2026. Marty here, joined by JM8 and producer Eric. Yahtzee is feeling a bit under the weather this morning, so no Yahtzee for this week's show. However, we're here to piece together this broken world, one Pokemon habitat at a time. Jay, welcome.
Hello, it's me.
We're here to talk about one of the big surprises of this young 2026 so far, that being Pokemon Pokopia for the Switch 2, which released to, I kind of wanted to say muted fanfare leading up to its release, like genuine kind of like, maybe mild excitement.
Did it interest you at all, like when it got announced?
It interested me in that I usually enjoy Pokemon spin-offs. I like when non-Game Freak teams color outside the Pokemon lines. And so I was
Pokemon
intrigued
Rangers,
by it.
big one for me.
Yeah, and I was certainly intrigued by it, knowing that this was Omega Force, the team that had made the Dragon Quest Builders games, which I haven't put too much time into, but I know are thoroughly enjoyed by Dragon Quest fans. So I figured if they could kind of do the same for Pokemon, then they'd have a winner on their hands. I certainly didn't predict the crazy amount of sales and high reviews and like early GOTY nominee contender, but Jay, as someone who plays the annualized Pokemon games every year they come out, what have you thought of Pokopia so far?
My initial reaction when I saw it as a trailer, I can't remember when it was announced, but when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is either gonna pop off or it's gonna be slop. Like it's gonna be like just a cash in with really underbaked mechanics. And I was not really too hot on its release. I wasn't planning to do anything on it until you mentioned it and spoke of it so highly. And then I immediately bought it. It was on the pod that you mentioned it, and I just instantly bought it. Yeah. And with my time with it, I think it's fantastic. I think it's really, really good. I have a few criticisms, but they're very, very, very small. I think it's very well put together. I think it's super, super addictive, for better or worse.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It definitely has some quality of life features that are lacking that seem like you could very easily make this a more streamlined experience. But as someone who's like not crazy about the cozy genre as a whole, like I've I got into Animal Crossing during that stretch during COVID, but like I've never really gotten into Minecraft. I've never really gotten into Stardew or anything like that. But the Pokemon kind of veneer of this thing is what hooked me in, and especially it's the nostalgia it has towards the first generation, especially. Obviously, it has Pokemon from the entire roster, but you very quickly realize that this is set in a version of Kanto. So this is kind of seemingly part of the the big 30th anniversary celebration this year. So it kind of makes sense to have a game set in some of those familiar locations. But how does this to you feel before we even dig into it as a like proper G game? How does this feel to you like as a Pokemon fan? Like, do you think this is something that like one of those kind of spin-offs that does make a lot of sense for Pokemon, or does it feel kind of like a strange mixture of two elements?
I think like mechanically it's not what you would usually expect from a Pokemon game. Even a Pokemon spin-off, even a lot of the spin-offs have been about still kind of fighting Pokemon and battling them. I kind of prefer my spin-offs with a little bit more spice, like Snap and moving into like some of the Pikachu spin-offs and stuff like that. And what I like about this is it has all of the flavor of Pokemon that I was worried it wouldn't have. I was worried that this was going to be like another game that they wanted to make, but they put Pokemon on it. But this is like, to its core, in every sense, is a Pokemon game. Nearly, even though it's such a hodgepodge of different mechanics and different types of games all being brought together. Every interaction has its like a Pokemon spin, and it all makes sense if you're a Pokemon fan. Like the habitats, which we're seeing some footage of right now, it just makes sense. And if you are familiar with a lot of the Pokemon and their types and where you would usually find them, it's just second nature to understand what they would need and stuff like that. So I think it does feel like a capital P Pokemon game. And I think in a lot of cases it even goes further, because I think a big criticism I've had of Pokemon for the last like 20 years has been, I don't feel like the mainline series has been pushing too many boundaries or like doing different things. And that's why I was so like I gave ZA a lot of praise, was because I think it was trying to do some different things, successful in some, not in others, but at least they were trying. And the spin-offs has been where it's been trying to do that. And I think this might be one of the most successful spin-offs to be like, oh, you've created a series now. Like this is going to be a thing now. Yeah. Especially because of how much it's sold, right?
Yeah, that's I think you hit the nail on the head. This does seem like this is going to be like a new Pokemon pillar, like to sit alongside proper releases, remakes, and then whatever the kind of Legends pillar is going to be. But I agree with you there that this quickly kind of outgrew, I guess, the mental pot that I put it in originally to become something much bigger. And I think that part of it has to do with a really decent onboarding. I think pretty quickly this gets you into the world, introduces you to like your Ditto, who I think is a super charming protagonist to be and really makes sense narratively. And just in this world, okay, you're going to need all these different abilities that you get throughout the game. So make it a Pokemon that it would make sense has all these different abilities, as opposed to you kind of just like magically popping out different Pokemon, from your roster.
Yeah, it wouldn't have as much charm if it was just you were capturing the Pokemon to do the things for you, which is a very Pokemon thing, like with Cut and rocks, like pushing rocks and stuff like that. I feel like having the Ditto really pushes it into you immediately understand the vibe and like the kind of sense of humor it's going to go for. I think I mentioned this on previous pods as well. Like some of my favorite details is how Ditto communicates with all of the Pokemon, because all the Pokemon have different personalities and ways they talk. And it was specifically with the Onix that I saw that Onix kept using the phrase bud, like, oh, you're right, bud, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with Ditto's responses, he would mimic how Onix was talking. He would use the same vocabulary. And I was like, that's such a tiny writing detail that's like really nice.
Yeah.
And I started noticing it with every Pokemon that he was speaking to. And that's just a lovely detail. And the Ditto just so cute, so like I don't know how to describe it. They don't, not helpless, but like kind of dumb.
It's almost a perfect
dopey.
Like a perfect avatar for the player, like feels like a blank slate. Like if you look at Ditto's like eyes and mouth, it's like usually like there's not a whole lot going on behind the curtains here. But I think that makes it for a really fun, player character. How did you feel when you started to piece together kind of the story? And I guess I have spoilers in the title. Like I think there are some things in this game that are like slight spoilers. So I don't know, Eric, if you want to put the little spoiler tag up, because I think some of the stuff you do have to kind of talk about the story. But how did you feel as you slowly did realize that this is Kanto, like that? Oh, like the places we're putting together are the cities from the original game.
Yeah, I didn't really get that until, I think similar to Yachts, until I was in the ocean water area and I saw the ferry and the cruise ship. It clicked for me then, and then the domino effect, and you go back and think, oh, this is where I've been the whole time. That's really nice. The thing that was for me when I realized that there was a narrative, I was kind of shocked that there was a through line story throughout the game, even more so than some mainline Pokemon games. Like a lot of the stories aren't that deep or interesting. Sorry, Pokemon fans. And I'm not saying that this one is like Shakespeare, but there's way more character interactions that feel, they're not humans, but they feel more they feel more human. They feel like these basic Pokemons have wants and needs that feel very realistic to what this creature would want, and would be annoying in other places. But when somebody comes up and is like, it's not humid enough, or I think it was early on, the Charmander is like, oh, you made it rain, and like I my tail, can't, I don't like this. I was like, I have to protect this boy.
I will build you a room.
I will make you a house.
Promise.
But it could have just been a simple checklist of just, this thing wants this, go do this. But to give them that little bit of character, and then having that overarching story to tie you between the zones is really, really smart. It was a pleasant surprise for me. To give you an idea of where I am in the story, because I've stopped a little bit because I was doing stuff and then went to PAX. I'm building the giant tower.
Okay.
Obviously, you can do things out of sequence, but
zone.
I'm building the Sky City, because that's a big task. So that's where I dropped off. So if there is, I don't mind spoilers, and we've got a spoiler warning for people. But is there a bigger revelation of like why this has happened to this environment, like where the humans are?
There is. You start piecing together. It's less like a immediate revelation, more of stuff you piece together through all the various documents you find, like all the professor's logs, the hackers' logs, kind of who's sending messages from under that kind of lighthouse right on the beach right behind the starting area and everything. And I did think it's cool. You start piecing those together, and pretty early on you're like, oh, this is like a game dealing with like a climate disaster on this planet, and humans being like, we don't know how to fix this other than we think we can figure out a way to save Pokemon by putting them inside a computer system, and we need to leave for a while. And so like it is like, it's a very, in the same, the biggest movie on the planet right now is that Project Hail Mary. This just seems like this is a topic that we see in so many different forms of media, but interesting that Pokemon of all things kind of just deals with it head on in kind of like a really interesting, like not really sugarcoating it kind of way, which I thought was.
I think this game's it's one of the notes I wrote down for when I was working on the video, was I think this game is really educational, like in how it teaches kids. Because again, remember guys, this is a game for children. We're playing it, but it is targeted towards kids. It does a really good job of like teaching children. One, I really like the fact that the world keeps turning, and things. I'm sure later we'll get into like the cycle and the actual gameplay, but the fact that like there's very early on you have to bring a Slowpoke up from the water up into the main city, and you have to build them a little path. And a lot of the times in games they would need you to like stay near them and like make sure that they're making their way there. But all Pokemon will do their stuff while you're not there. And there's like this real sense of teaching kids like object permanence, of like, things are moving without you. Getting into like the water area, there's a lot to deal with like power and light and how you generate power. And it's not just the Pokemon can do it. Isn't this fun fantasy? It's like we have to use like hydro and like wind power to generate electricity to like help the Pikachu and stuff like that, which is a really small thing, but like that is a way to educate kids. And I think that's really fun. And I think a lot of the small interactions you get into actually do a great job of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely, I feel the same, those little interactions, do a great job of building up that sense of like community, like we're just stumbling upon two Pokemon having a little conversation that you can overhear. And it just feels like they've put a ton of thought into those little moments. Like there's one we called out in my video the other week, but of a Bulbasaur and a Paris talking, and they're both excited about evolving into their next forms. And Paris talks about how he's also a little scared because he hopes he'll still remember Bulbasaur after that evolution. And like the lore of Pokemon talks about how like once Paris evolves, the parasite takes over its mind, and so it won't remember. Like in its evolution,
Whoa.
it is the parasite is the thing driving the car, and the body of it is just kind of there as a vessel. So like the fact that they put that line in this game is like, oh damn. So like, A, you don't mind getting a little bit dark, but B, like you guys clearly know all this weird bullshit
Understand
Pokemon
the
lore that it doesn't really matter, but helps kind of flesh out the whole thing.
Well, because it's so difficult in mainline Pokemon games for the developers to tell those kind of stories because the Pokemon aren't talking. Like you have to get it in like the Souls-likey way, which is like reading descriptions. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But a large percentage of the audience will not engage with that stuff. One, because they might not know it's there, and two, because they don't want to read for whatever reason. And this game, because you're a Ditto and all the Pokemon can talk to each other, there's so much more story they can just do through like stumbling upon the Pokemon. And it doesn't need to be super deep or be like, oh, when you stumble upon a Pokemon, they exposit their like unique thing.
Yeah.
It just, they're like animals first that have wants and needs, and then you can stumble upon it. One of the ones I saw was Charmander talking to, I think it was a Combee, and was just like, oh my god, what is it like to fly? Like, that's so cool. I wish I could fly, and obviously everybody knows they will eventually be able to fly through their evolutions, but they didn't seem to be aware of the evolution process. In that moment. But then they were like, well, you've got a flaming tail, that's cool. And they were like, yeah, but what if I had a flaming tail and I could fly? That would be awesome.
And if I didn't have to listen to Ash at all, I could just become a little asshole.
That would be sick. But like, that's a great point of like, I'm not sure if, and I'm sure people in chat will correct me. I'm not sure we've ever had confirmation that the Pokemon are like directly aware of their evolutionary processes.
Yeah.
Like they know it's going to happen and they are looking forward to it. And like, how would that happen in the wild and stuff like that? I'm waiting. I'm looking at chat, guys, to see if someone's
Oh yeah, like if there's the Squirtle Squad know that someday it might become Wartortles and Blastoises. Like, are some of them aware, like scared of growing up? Like,
and do they actively like seek to do that? Like, are they trying to do that because like, it makes them more powerful or whatever? But like the fact we're asking these questions is from the fact that this game explores that just through these little dialogue options, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we talked a lot about the story, the world, how we seem to really dig that. Let's dig a little bit into the gameplay, and I think some of the things probably that you and I might have rubbed against here. So what are some gameplay highlights for you, and then what specifically like just kind of wasn't working for you, or do you feel like could get it tweaked?
What really worked for me was what I think the crux of the game is, which is the habitats and managing the Pokemon. I really, really appreciated that side of things. I feel that's where most of the character came from, with all of the different Pokemon around, a bunch of the story. Also a bunch of the... I felt super motivated to engage with the checklists of the game when it was attached to a Pokemon and their wants. Like, I will get into this a little bit later, but like the game can be a little bit relentless with how it constantly brings you new things, and like things are constantly happening, which in a lot of the cases is good, but in some other games could turn a lot of people off. I made a video about Dave the Diver and how having too much content can kind of mess the flow of the game. I think this game gets a little bit close to that with how much it's constantly giving you new things, but I digress. The habitats were my favorite thing. I really liked how they are brought to you by the Pokemon. I think the going up to the grass or the water or wherever and like that, what is it going to be, is endlessly exciting, you know, as a Pokemon fan.
It has that same cadence of, ooh, what's it going to be when like you throw a Pokeball and it does its three little kind of jingles before it locks in. Like it has that moment of like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be?
Yeah. Or like as a Pokemon fan, I can kind of guess what would be in this habitat and what would like to be here. So even when you go into, for people who haven't played, there's like a menu. You can discover like traces of Pokemon where it will give you like, if you put these items together, it will create a habitat for Pokemon to come. And sometimes it will say which ones will be there. And sometimes it will just be question marks. And those were the most exciting to me because I would like to guess at what would be there. And a lot of the times I was wrong because I'm not an encyclopedia of Pokemon knowledge. And I'm sure many of you listening right now would be able to do that. But sometimes I got it right, and it was like this little mini game for me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was just so rewarding to like see what was going to come up, and then thinking, how can this then facilitate more gameplay? If I keep this Pokemon happy, if they're then here, can they help me do other things? Because the other side of the coin, because I do think habitats are like the thing. Alongside it, is like the building and or more early cleanup. Sure. It's way more about like cleaning up this kind of apocalyptic landscape.
Clean it up so that you can have some semblance of a society. Like I need room to put a building right now.
Yeah, but I think that's so smart because there's so much in the game that's based on time, which is one of my criticisms, is that the time gated stuff is, on one side, is really smart because let's say you've taken a fire Pokemon to a forge to create glass or iron bars or something. They require time, or like a cipher to chop wood into lumber. They require time to do this. And what that allows you to do is to create a new short-term goal, which is I need to wait for a cipher to cut the wood. I need to go do something. So you explore out and you either help other Pokemon or you clean up. If like a really smart thing was the areas near these Pokemon are usually littered with stuff that you can clean up, like ash in some of the areas. And the game does a really smart thing, which is when you're cleaning up, sometimes you will just stumble into accidentally creating a habitat.
Yeah.
Like unearth a bench and a plate, and it's like, oh, you've made a thing. Right, and then that gives you another short-term goal. Okay, I need to return here because this thing's happened. That's just through cleaning, and now you have more building blocks to go do other things, and the game is constantly ping-ponging you from thing to thing, really cleverly in this way. I'm trying to remember what my original thought was. I think
it sounds like that's when it's creating those ability moments of choice feel like a good thing. At some point, does it tip over though? Does like does you kind of get like a choice paralysis, or like there are too many items on this plate at one time?
I feel like it's to do with time. So if we think of similar games, not mechanically, but in how you're constantly working through short-term and long-term goals. Stardew Valley is my prime example, which is every day when you wake up, you are given short-term goals alongside your long-term ones. And then there are interruptions that will give you new short-term goals, so you're constantly cycling through. In this case with Pokemon, the interruptions are quite literally Pokemon running up to you and going, oh my god, I hate how humid it is. Or I want a bird bath.
Yeah.
So the thing with Stardew, there's this phenomenon which a lot of people talk about, which is the just one more day, right? I'm just going to I just need to do one more day. And that's because the game has a really nice Stardew has a really nice balance of peaks and valleys in like game time and like high stakes, exciting moments, and then downtime. And a lot of that downtime is based on time. You're ending the day, right? You're coming to a close. And even though we do have this one more day phenomenon, players have a tidy place to put the game down. Mm-hmm. And the next day is immediately started with the same tasks to get them back into the loop and get them back into it. And that's because it's primarily a farming simulator, and this game does have farming elements. But I think because and when you mentioned this to me before I got it, I knew this was potentially going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. It's that in Pokopia, the time is based on real world time.
Sure.
And I think that's neat, but I also think it doesn't allow for the peaks and valleys of of downtime, because I feel like the time for you to put the game down is not the end of the in-game day, it is the end of the actual day. And I think it's harder to keep track of what, like going to bed, waking up, picking up the game, and then thinking, wait, what the fuck was I doing? Like, who wants what? And there are ways to keep track of them, but then I would come back and in one of the areas there'd be like 3 major tasks and like a bunch of small ones, and I'd be like, oh my god, like it stopped becoming at that point a natural sense of discovery and me stumbling into things and helping Pokemon because they're asking me in real time, and then became a checklist. And that's when a little bit of the magic fell away for me. And for me, it's all to do with how they manage that time. Because also Pokemon, in the water area, the ocean area, I remember to create the building, I was building a house, and I needed a flying type Pokemon to do it. And lo and behold, one of them, what Pokemon I already had, Zubat, could have done it, but he wasn't showing up on like this Pokemon could potentially do it. So I was looking for another one. And the only one I could find was like on the windmill. If you put grass around the windmill, it makes a habitat for can't remember what they're called, the big seagull twat. And I was like, I've got to get him. And I was playing at night, and he only appeared in daytime.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I guess I can't do this. I have to step away from it. I didn't need to, but I thought I did. And a lot of the Pokemon will only appear in certain
time of day.
frames.
Yeah. Even though in like the same habitat framework, it'll be like, oh, some will only come out of this sequence of bushes during the day, and some will only come out of the sequence of bushes at night.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how I feel about that in games in general. Like Animal Crossing had a lot of the come back daily kind of like gacha kind of formula, and I don't think I agree with it because not everyone has the same amount of access to games as everyone else. Like, I do appreciate that the day that they give extra resources is a Sunday. That's nice. Sure. Like, imagine if that was a Monday. Like,
you're
that
like,
would suck for a lot of
I have
people.
class that day, or like I work.
I have a job, right? I can't play Pokopia for that day. So I do appreciate that, but I feel like I don't feel like it adds enough to warrant like the downsides of having it for a lot of people, because it can be like, well, I can't play as much as my friend, and I don't really want to play much anymore because like they're getting more stuff than me. This is just an example of how some people might think.
Or I can only play during a certain time of day, and so I can't get the morning stuff because I can only play, at night after work.
Like I've only found one Eevee, but imagine, how obsessed I am with Eevees. Like, imagine if they were only accessible in certain parts of the day at certain times, and because of my job or whatever, I could never get them. That would put me off. Right, like the beauty of this game is how you stumble into things, like with the cleaning and then the habitats and the building. Like, it's all constantly revolving and going, and I really like that. But when you attach the time to it, you're putting a barrier up for a lot of players. Yeah. Rather than, I have some time, let's jump back in and see what I can do again. It's, well, am I coming on at the right time of day? Am I doing this? And it's not like this mechanic is like super integral, but it is still there, right?
Yeah, and I'm happy that, say what you want about Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, but a skeezier company would have microtransactions you could buy in order to shrink that.
The house will be built, right?
And so, the fact that these games are kind of just one-time payment things, that's,
which is good.
It's a good thing. It's how it should be, but I agree with a lot of with what you said there. I'm of two minds with the 24-hour clock thing. It feels a bit presumptive of the game, I think, to posit this as it kind of worked with Animal Crossing, and maybe that was just the timing of it coming out right at the beginning of COVID, and a lot of people having a lot of time to play this game. But I know, if you can only play games at a certain time of day, then I'd understand why you want to start getting in there and jostling around the internal clock of the Switch in order to be able to see more things or feel like you can get more out of a single play session or whatnot.
Yeah.
So completely agree there. And then just some cumbersome menus, I think. It feels like I'm constantly forgetting where certain things are, like which storage boxes do I have X, Y, and Z in. I knew I had those kind of like rainbow metal bars somewhere, but I can't remember exactly which one. It just feels like there should be some cleaning up of menus behind the hood, which could come in a future update, but.
Yeah, there's like the shop where not the shop, it's also the shop and the building. If you buy something and or build something, it's like, click the thing you want to build. Are you sure you want to build this? Yes. Okay, animation. You've built the thing. Pop up. Oh, yes. Okay, click it. And then it's like, it takes you out of the menu and you go back into it. And it's like, it just feels a little bit clunky, but that's kind of part of the horse with AAA UI. There's a lot of like interaction costs that don't particularly need to be there. But it's just the way it is,
Yeah. Does this before jumping into super chats, does this change your temperature, your outlook on the next generation of Pokemon? We know that they're taking another year off, that Winds and Waves are coming out next year. That's the Gen 10 Pokemon coming straight to Switch 2. Is it one of those, you'll believe it when you see it, or kind of how are you feeling on the current Pokemon curve?
I'm feeling positive. Like ZA and Pokopia, I think are great beacons for like what spin-offs could be for the series going forward in the future. You have that more action focused real-time combat of ZA, which I think should be spun off into its own thing and explored further. And I think this kind of cozy habitat building sim could work really well in future titles. It's always just like the mainline Pokemon games always kind of play it safe, and I don't necessarily think that's a terrible thing. Mm-hmm. I wish they would really push it out, but they seem to be experimenting a lot in these spin-off kind of titles with the IP to see what they can do. Have we seen any gameplay of Winds and Waves, whatever they're called?
No, just that reveal trailer from a little while ago. Very much looked like it's kind of Polynesian island set. Seems like there's going to be a lot of like swimming underwater, like actual underwater biomes and whatnot.
Okay, do we know if it's 3D? Like it's a 3D game, as in like you're exploring in 3D.
Very much so.
I feel like they've moved over to that fully, and I do feel like that's the natural evolution of this series in a lot of ways, because of how it allows you to view Pokemon naturally in their habitats and anticipate and sneak up, and there's lots more you can do with that than the 2D 2D games. I'm optimistic about Pokemon. But we'll see, because we've been burnt by mainline Pokemon games. Sure. Well, not burnt. We've been by the mainline Pokemon for a long time.
We've seen certain trailers that have gotten us really excited, and then the game has come out and to varying degrees of success.
What's that game they're working on? The
non-Pokemon game, Beast of Reincarnation.
Oh yeah, I'm more interested to see what they do with that. Because none of the trailers have really blown me away. So I'm interested to see what we get with that, and if it has any depth. Because it is a new thing from them. I mean, more power to them. Contrary to popular belief, because we complain about things sometimes, I want all games to be good.
That would be really nice.
Yeah, like if this is sick and people can love it, that's awesome. That's what I want, but it remains to be seen.
Also, there's only one Beast of Reincarnation in my book, and their name is Amaterasu. It's the only Beast of Reincarnation that matters.
I wore that shirt on my panel, and people were saying how nice it was.
Fuck yeah,
we love it.
Hell yeah. Let's jump into super chats. Thank you all so much.
Ooh,
get your thoughts in there. Also, as a little prompt, if you think the Pokopia treatment can be. I'll even ask this to you, Jay. Do you think there's another franchise that you'd like to get the Pokopia treatment? Not necessarily like a 1-to-1, but that kind of. Do you think there's another franchise that could kind of work? Like, could a Zelda this work? Like a Zelda?
In what regard? Like a spin-off that's trying something different, or like specifically a builder game?
I would say a spin-off trying something different with a lot of the same flavors as, maybe even a builder game.
Oh,
it feels like you could slap the Final Fantasy license on that, right? If the Dragon Quest Builders works, it feels like have Moogles and Chocobos and Cacatoirs and whatnot.
Yeah, just like I'd love to see like a Final Fantasy one where it's about maintaining and doing stuff for the monsters of those worlds, and like a monster wrangler kind of thing. It's not necessarily that you are capturing and battling these things, but you are like, do you know like Dungeon Keeper or something, where you're like, you make a space for these horrible creatures to like live, and oh no, adventurers are coming in and you guys are fucking everything up. I'm just trying to make this Minotaur have a good life. Please stop coming in here.
John Arbuckle came up with a good name, Chocobokia.
Smashed it.
I don't think I did. That's very difficult to say. I have several notes. Right off the bat, Raven, thank you so much for a $2 dono. Raven's weekly word of the week, week 44, aleatory. I don't know what this is. I had to look it up. Describe something depending on chance, luck, or an uncertain event.
Describe something as such.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one.
Magic. Free words. As opposed to those expensive words most weeks. And Javelin, thank you so much for the dono. Bosnia shout out in the Pokopia review. I'm going to assume that was Yahtzee. Shout out to all our Bosnian brothers and Sarajevan sisters.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah,
where the fuck is Wheream's Bosnia? Let me look.
Just Google Wheream's Bosnia.
Wemst Bosnia. Bosnia at location. I'm gonna check because I need to be educated.
Mind blown.
It's Southeast Europe, dude.
Yeah.
On the Baltic Peninsula. Oh, yeah. Balkan Peninsula.
Ball so hard.
All right.
Shout out to Bosnia. Thank you so much. Glitchy Pants with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Glitchy Pants. First dono and can't join as I don't want to get spoiled. Hope it all goes well here for everyone. Thanks, Glitchy Pants. I think it's great.
It went well, and I hope you one day hear this once you've played Pokopia, and I hope you had fun, mate.
Yeah, we put up spoilers. I don't feel like there's that many spoilers throughout this.
I think there's a lot you could spoil unless like specific Pokemon interactions and overarching story is something.
Yeah, I didn't even get into. There's like, I guess a tip I'd give some people, which actually, wait, I'll save it because it ties into a super chat. But Sinus the Hedgehog, thank you so much, a $5 dono. A philosophical question. Could the Ditto protagonist be an on-the-nose metaphor for player customization, inventory, and being? Also, is Pal World dead? I do not think the Ditto is a metaphor. I think it's more of this is an easy way we have to do this, to give you some sort of visual customization. Yeah. I do feel like the Ditto, I don't know what came first, the idea for the game or Ditto being the protagonist, but they seem like very interlinked.
It's the perfect protagonist for this type of game. Like it really is. I anticipate we're going to see a lot more Ditto stuff.
I was saying, I bet Ditto has like whatever like tier of popularity of Pokemon it was. I bet it has vaulted up to like it is near like an S tier. It is not also quite a Pikachu, but it's up there. Yeah.
A gameplay wise, like now that they've been like, oh yeah, Ditto can do X, Y, and Z, and they can mimic a human and stuff like that. Like I reckon we're going to see a lot more Ditto centric games coming out in the next 5 years because. Yeah. As they've just proven, they can be a great diegetic way for the player to be able to do all the video gamey things, right? Oh, yeah. And communicate with Pokemon and talk to them, which I think also opens up a lot of doors for them. So I think they were very clever with the whole Ditto thing. Also, I hope Pal World is dead, but we'll see.
I don't know if it's dead. I feel like no one talks about it anymore. Like
it's because it was a fucking meme game that people memed on for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and they sold a shit ton of copies through it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
don't know how that happens. Snake in the Garden, thank you so much. A €5 dono. Changed my mind. I enjoyed the end game. Now that I have all my skills, collection habitats, and terraforming, I just wish it got there faster, but I did like the story. That is one thing I've been telling people of, like, don't. It almost makes the most sense if you're gonna like devote a lot of time to like terraforming and to like really building out. We didn't even get into that stuff of like, I don't know if you've stumbled upon any of the crazy builds people have made online of like, they built like a subterranean supermax prison for a single Mr. Mime. Like you had to like go into this lava chute and like go through these security doors, and then there was one Mr. Mime in a cage.
Dude, it makes me feel like a child in a cage smashing toys together when I see stuff like that. I'm like, that is so impressive. Like maybe because I know you unlock more of the tools later, and I think a lot of people have been suggesting, wait until you get into the end game to kind of be doing that, because you'll be given a lot more tools. I agree with Snake in the Garden. I wish it got to that sooner, because there are things I wanted to do, but like became really tedious. It's really cool that they applied a lot of the upgrades to the how you interact with the world were all done through food. And to upgrade the food even further, you could engage with Pokemon to have them cook with you or use different ingredients. It all melds together so well. Like it's very, very smart. I just wish those upgrades were given to me sooner, because I probably would have stayed in that opening section of the game for at least 20 more hours if I was given the tools to just properly make it how I wanted, Yeah.
I mean, there's even like the early on, you're kind of like, oh, should I go around and throw up water on every single square of this area in order to like, moisten the soil?
I've seen people online who did it.
Yeah, even though it's like, oh, by the end of the first chapter, the rain will just enter the equation. And so it is one of those where like almost every chapter gives you a new, like, oh, I now have the ability to do blank. And it starts out small things like, oh, Magikarp taught me how to jump. And that feels like
which
big,
is
like,
great, by the way.
Yeah, it's like a really great feeling, which we were talking about this on, I think on a stream last week of, maybe it does make sense that it withheld a little bit those later movement techs, because by doling them out slowly, getting the ability to jump a little bit feels like a big sense of progress.
Yeah, it's great, like juxtaposition or delayed gratification of just like, here's a tool that you were expecting and thought we didn't have, but and also just like, I know it's stupid, but the fact that you meet the Magikarp and he's very dumb, and he's like, thank you so much for making me a place to stay. I will teach you my ultra mega special move. And like in your head, you're like, it's Splash. Yeah. Because like, that's the only thing he can possibly do. And then I was like, oh, okay, what is this going to be? Am I just going to transform into a Magikarp and splash around? Which I would have been fine with.
Sure, yeah.
But then when it was like, this is jump, I was like bawling. I was like, this is fucking great. Like they understand, these devs clearly get Pokemon, and like, instead of it just being like a skin, this is like a capital P Pokemon game, and I really respect that.
Which a lot of people have been pointing out. It's funny that this was Omega Force. This is their game. The game that feels like a proper Pokemon game is not, in fact, a Game Freak game. But hopefully some lessons are taken from that. Waiting for Viva Pinata 2. Thank you so much for the dono. I played the Nintendo Switch Online playtest. I'm going to surprise you. Pokopia is half of what that playtest was. Crazy to think they're cooking up something even bigger. Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember that a few years ago? Jay, there was like an online play test people could sign up for, and if you got chosen, you got to play a test version of a kind of an online game, and some of the footage and impressions of stuff that have come out from that have shown it is this kind of small block-based building cooperative multiplayer thing. Some of which feels like the ideas and tech that came from that ended up going into this, but other things that might be used for something else down the road. So
interesting. No, I hadn't heard about that at all. It's interesting to think that they might be doing something bigger. It also could be that what you played waiting for Viva Pinata 2. It could have been this, but from like a very early stage.
Sure. Yeah.
Before it was
I think
given
they
the
said
final
this
polish.
originally, their idea was it was going to be 2D, like almost like top down, like kind of the point of view of a Pokemon game, or like, fixed camera and everything, which
I wouldn't have minded that. Having like a singular plane to worry about rather than like, because I did enjoy the building aspects, don't get me wrong, and I did like all that, but it might have been my least favorite part of it, that it was like blocky Minecrafty world. Obviously it gives people so much room to be able to do these crazy builds and access that part of the game, but that just wasn't my favorite part. The whole like Pokemon interactions and habitats was my favorite part. So the idea of there being a top down more Pokemon, OG Pokemon-esque version, it seems very attractive to me, but I am happy at where it is now, for sure.
Yeah. Reminded me a little bit of like when the Breath of the Wild team, after it came out, showed the prototype, how they started prototyping Breath of the Wild almost looking like the original Zelda, like a kind of top down, but then they got the physics in there of like fire, setting bushes on fire and everything.
Yeah, you guys would be surprised how different games look, even like a few months before they come out. Like they can look extremely different. And they can go through rapid changes, not just in art, but also in like perspective and stuff like that. It's an interesting when you get to see games early. It can be very, very different.
Yeah, it was like it when devs and publishers show that stuff off. Like I would love to see, like a Pokemon. Like I would love to see what like prototype versions of Pokemon games look like. I think that shit's fascinating. Kite, thank you so much for the dono. The writers did a ton of work with speech patterns. A lot of it got lost due to the limitations of English, but the localizers tried their best. Japan has been having fun with them, especially Bulbasaur. Oh, I mean, I don't know what's been lost in the translation, but so far I think the writing's really charming.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. There's so much character you can get out of them, just the way they're speaking. And because it's Pokemon, I don't know why. Like when I get I accidentally go into a trainer battle with Buggy Steve, like the little bug type twat in the bushes, like he's been waiting for me. He comes out and he's like, "Man, I fucking love bugs." And I'm like, "Okay." I just want to beat the shit out of that child and leave. Yeah. But with this, it's like I don't really understand what kind of personality a Bulbasaur is going to have. Like,
sure.
So when they talk, I'm actually intrigued at like what's the characterization of this Pokemon and like how do they talk, what do they want and stuff like that. And sometimes their wants and needs are different from what you would expect. And that's interesting. And it's just really smart that again they're using the Ditto. I could see a version of this game when you were playing a human and the Pokemon don't talk. They just make like original like Game Boy sound effects. They just go like, "Rawr," and then a pop-up says, "This Charmander is cold." Yeah. And it's like, oh, I have to infer what they want and stuff like that. But being able to talk to them, you just can add so much more charm. I never got annoyed when a Pokemon would come up to me and be like, "Hi, like you can call me by a different name now because like we're friends and I really like you." And they gift me a rock. Like in other games, I'd be like, "You have interrupted what I'm doing to tell me fuck all and give me a useless item. Like I will stomp on this thing and kill it." But because the way they're characterized, it's just like they're like, "Oh, I love you so much. Thank you so much for building me toy blocks for my house. I love you. Here's a rock." I'm like, man, I would die for you. Like, it's all just recharacterization. So the dialogue's really, really smart. With the donos, did we miss Venom?
Yeah, we did miss Venomon Killer. Apologies. There, Venomon Killer with a $10 dono. Thank you so much. I really want to play this, but I only bought Final Fantasy VII Remake for the Switch a few days ago. My backlog is entirely stacked. At least this will always be the same price, considering it won't ever be on sale. That's true. So there you go. And if it's anything like the PS5, maybe it'll just go up in price. Who knows?
I'm finally thinking about tackling FF7 for the next design delve. I think I'm going to do a big FF7 dive. So keep your eyes peeled for that, guys, because I might stream my entire playthrough of it potentially.
Yes.
So
become the Final Fantasy boy.
Keep a peel out for that.
What if you then need to buy a big sword? between Berserk and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, you're going to need a large sword, a big slab.
I'm not joking. So Jesse Galena from Second Wind fame stayed with us while we were at PAX, and we got into a conversation of how like I love swords, like just in general. I've got them tattooed on me. Like I absolutely adore swords, but I do not own a sword. And I got it stuck in my head that there would be a sword dealer at PAX, and in hindsight, there isn't and wouldn't be.
Sure, you can't really sell weapons on the base floor.
No, other cons potentially, or like Ren fairs and stuff, 100%, but not PAX.
Yeah.
One of the things it says on the sign is "Do not bring swords in," so probably not going to buy them in there.
Sure, yeah.
But I ran around that place looking for swords so many times, so I think I do need to get a big sword, and maybe playing FF7 will be the reason to do so.
I would love for you to just become a big sword guy. I think it'd be really exciting.
Years ago, I nearly quit my job to become like a blacksmith hermit. I was like, I could just save up money and buy a bunch of tools and just make swords. Mm-hmm. No experience.
Yeah.
You know, you have those moments where you're just like, I'm going to quit.
I can do this. Yeah, sure.
I can do this. Not that I think I have the skill, but I'm going to be like, fuck everything. I'm going to make swords.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to burn my social security card and just move out.
I'm going to make bad swords and make no money and die.
Love it. Sinos the Hedgehog, thank you so much, a $5 dono. About the latest Second Wind update, Friday the 13th. I thought the series was about video game lore, or at least franchises Yahtzee knows little about. Referring to our latest Yahtzee Reads the Lore video, which went up earlier this month on a Friday the 13th about Friday the 13th, a series both Yahtzee and the writer and editor of that episode, Jesse Schwab, are both big fans of. Normally it's about video game franchises, but there's no laws. It's a Patreon video of people having fun. We can read the lore of anything. The Bible.
Open the gates to other stuff. Come on.
The dictionary. But yeah, that was mostly because someone had the idea in a meeting a week beforehand about doing one for a Friday the 13th. And that was the last Friday the 13th until November. So turned it around nice and quickly.
Jump on
there
it.
You go. Yeah. Minduel, thank you so much for a $2 dono. Why can't we eat unfertilized Pokemon eggs? Prudes. Agreed. All prudes.
Well, I think I was thinking about this because I think Jess came over and mentioned something, because Jess does not know fuck all about Pokemon. So she always has questions like, what the fuck is that? And I think it was something along the lines of like, why doesn't this Pokemon just eat the other Pokemon? Because it was like cooking and stuff. Oh yeah, it was burgers, and I made a burger, and it was like a mushroom burger or something. Mm-hmm. She was like, "Why is it a mushroom? Why isn't it meat?" And I was like, "I don't think the Pokemon devs want to imply that these Pokemon are like devouring each other."
Yeah,
and
even though I'm sure some are carnivorous, right?
Like, definitely,
obviously,
100%. But like they don't particularly want to like draw attention to it of like, okay, where's this mincemeat coming from?
Yeah.
Like all the humans are dead. Who's grinding up meat and stuff like that? So yeah, it's weird that we can't eat the eggs. But I think a lot of them are just veggies, you know?
Yeah. Listen, this is a post-human world. Everything's fine. I like somehow Eric has found just the weirdest images from the Pokemon cartoon, which I'm a big fan of. Well done.
We gave Eric a thread to pull, and he's in a rabbit hole, and we are.
There's no sweater anymore.
Yeah.
Tsunami Doucher with a $20 dono. Thank you much, thank you much, Tsunami Doucher.
I agree with everything Marty's just said.
Thank you much so.
Big much so from us.
Listen, I'm just saying what we're all thinking. Thank you much so. Sinos the Hedgehog back with another $5 dono. Thanks, Sinos. Says, I see Marty's 2001 and I raised 1998, including Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, Banjo, Resident Evil 2 and StarCraft, and 2007, Bioshock, Halo 3, Mario Galaxy, Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect, and Call of Duty 4. I think Sinos, that's referencing a video from Eric and I that went up this morning, using the science, tabulating the numbers, and coming with scientific proof that the year 2001 was the greatest year in video game history and will never be beat. And we figured it out using science. So I don't know what to tell you, but it's always going to be, it's facts. But no, 98, 2007, 2020, those were all years that, in my opinion, are top tier years.
Golden.
Just golden. Little golden years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sussy Guru, thank you so much with a €5 dono. Are there any human skellies in the games, or is it just ruins?
Good question.
I feel like there's probably some bones, or maybe in my mind I just saw some bones.
I'm trying to think if I can remember any bones.
Yeah.
I might be thinking of a different game of like collecting bones and getting bone dust. Oh wait, no, that's Valheim. I'm getting this confused with Valheim, which I played a little bit before I got into this.
I assume maybe it's just like in my mind I create human bones on the like in the mines. We go in the mines, we go down near the lava, and there's human bones down there. In my mind, there were human bones.
Just like some bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have bone blindness though. I'm not able to see bones where they are, and oftentimes I imagine bones where they aren't. So
is that why you couldn't become a chiropractor? Because I know you wanted to become one.
I just started cracking everything. You know, like, sir, that is a pillow. You cannot crack the pillow. Proved him wrong.
Isn't chiropractic like a quack? Like it seems real dangerous. Medical stuff.
Like I've had my back cracked before and it's felt pretty good, but I also don't want some weirdo on Facebook giving me a big old neck tug. I don't need anyone out here tugging my neck.
There's a fine line between crack your back and paralyze you for life.
Sure, yeah, and that line is that's a very fine
sign
line.
Sign this piece of paper before we give you this back rub, and it says like if you die, it's not our fault. It's like
exactly. That sounds great. Witticism, thank you so much with a $5 dono. Hello, all. Nothing to say on Pokopia, but I did fire up Okami last night. Never got around to it before now. Excited to fill this blind spot. Have a great time. Yeah, I just did a replay a couple months ago. A delightful game.
Amazing game. One of my favorites of all time. Good luck getting through the opening. It's very slow.
Yeah, once you get out of that first village, it picks up, but it is like a nice 2 to 3 hour jaunt in that village.
Yeah, it's a great game though.
Yeah,
amazing game.
Excellent. And Son of the Hedgehog with another $2 dono. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoy the upcoming Mario Galaxy film. We were just talking about that before we went live. That is, people don't realize that's coming out this week. I think starting tomorrow at midnight, but it's Wednesday. A Wednesday release. So
they confirmed Fox McCloud's in it, right?
Yeah, voiced by Glenn Powell. Yeah.
Speaking of the Running Man, which we're
speaking of the titular Running Man, you know what they call him? The Flying Man, on account of being a Fox McCloud. I heard he's going to kiss Yoshi right on the mouth in the movie.
What the fuck?
Yeah, in the French style. He's going to kiss him as the French do.
Oh my god. Yeah. Pucker up, Yoshi.
And Beast March with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Or both of you can be very excited for tomorrow's chiropractic appointment. Listen, as long as we're not the ones doing that, you should be fine. What could possibly go wrong? These
professionals are trained. I'm not saying it's just random people. They let people in off the street to do it. They are trained to do it.
Yeah.
But be careful.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you feel like your bones are snapping, maybe say something.
Yeah, see something like bone snapping, say something. Or if you have bone blindness, you have bone blindness. That's a real problem. That's gonna do it for today's episode. Jay, what do you got going on? What should folks know about from you? Norbit from you.
Hey guys, I have an episode on Pokopia which will be out sometime. I've been at PAX. I had some life things. I'm working on when it's going to be coming out. But there will be one, and as I mentioned, there is going to be a Final Fantasy VII design delve in the works, and I'm thinking about, because I need to play it fully for my first time, I think it would be a bit of a shame to not involve you guys in that. So whether that's sometimes on the Second Wind channel or maybe on my personal channel, like Twitch channel, I'll make sure we get that info to you. So keep an eye on the Discord. I'm sure there'll be an announcement of when that's happening. And then I'm just gonna play for it, and it's gonna be sick nasty, if you will. Other than that,
sick and nasty.
Yeah, at the same time. There'll also be a Dev Heads this week, I believe. PAX has like ruined me. I don't know where I am. It is a Dev Heads week.
Correct.
There will be a Dev Heads on Friday. Me, Mikey, and Tina back again talking about all of the industry happenings. Hopefully there won't be mass layoffs, because it's been like 7 episodes in a row where one of our topics has been mass layoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for some positives. So if you guys have any ideas for topics you'd like to see us talk about that have a bit more of a positive spin, there's a DevHeads channel in the Discord that you can come message us directly, and we would love to hear your suggestions. Other than that, that's my stuff.
Hell yeah. Sussy Guru snuck in with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. Chiropractic is based on the belief that all diseases are caused by a misaligned spine. So yes, it's quackery. Think about this though. What if all diseases are caused by a misaligned spine?
My doctor believes that everything's caused by inflammation.
Yeah. Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways? Think about that.
Fuck. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, sign me up. Here's my health insurance card. Break my back.
Perfect. Then yeah, for the rest of the week, like Jay said, stay tuned for that Pokopia episode of Design Delve at some point in the near future. Video that Eric and I have been working on for a while on the year 2001, the one that I mentioned earlier, is live on the channel. Check that out. This evening at the normal times. No Jesse Galena, because I believe he's still going to be heading back from PAX, but Casey and Jess are going to be around for Hot Monday Energy playing the new racing game Screamer, which is supposedly a pretty good racing game by the folks who made the Hot Wheels, those Hot Wheels racing games from the other year.
I love the Hot Wheels racing games.
Yeah, so this Screamer is
I didn't even know this was a thing.
It looks kind of like a Weeby cars.
Screamer.
Yeah, and should be normal streams and pods and whatnot for the rest of the week. So tune in for that. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in live and donated your. Wait, Eric says one last dono. I don't think, is that true, Eric? Because I read both those donos. Eric, I already read that. Where Eric?
So
what are we gonna do with
mate.
you? What are we gonna do with you, Eric?
Eric, we're going to book you in on a chiropractic appointment, and I'm going to break your fucking spine, dude.
Thank you all so much, everyone who tuned in live, donated with those wonderful super chats. And of course, thank you so much to all those members of the Patreon. Thank you so much for keeping the lights on here. We love making these videos. Thank you for supporting us. So for Jay and Eric and the Sick Yahtzee, this was Marty. This was Windbreaker episode number 117. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Mondays, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.